Hi all.
Hi.
How are you?
Hey, I don't see her. Are we able to put a pin on that? Especially she's gonna be sharing her documents. There you are.
Hi all.
Yeah. And can she share, does she have? Share screen?
Yep, I'm authorized to share screen.
Okay, all right. So can we call the policy subcommittee meeting to order, please? Madam Secretary, take the attendance.
Chairperson Barry,
Here.
Mr. Conway, Mr. Rossi,
Here.
three present.
And now we have Alicia.
Yep.
the Association of School Committees, who will be leading us through the next phase of our review of the policy documents.
Excellent. So I think you have a couple of policies that you have on your agenda first that we should probably start with. Um, so why don't you guys jump into those? I know I've given you feedback via email, but why don't you guys jump into those and we'll start there.
So the first one is the chapter 74.
Yep.
That is a policy that is required in order for Lowell High School and the district to apply for vocational programs. So I believe with the marketing program, but in order for us to enroll for the program, we have to have this policy.
Right. And we're looking at expanding the program to criminal justice and,
Criminal justice and marketing.
marketing was it, okay. So do we have any documents to put up on the screen, or how do you want to proceed with it?
If you want, I can share my screen and I can put up the document that I was sent. So can you all see that?
Is there recommended language from MASC on these types of programs, or is this just us approving what the administration gave us?
So there isn't necessarily recommended language from MASC. The admissions policy is not something we keep in our policy manual. An admissions policy is usually unique to every Chapter 74 school and or program if it's outside of a whole Chapter 70 school. I did review this. I have a little bit of experience with an admissions policy anyway because I sit on the board of a Chapter 70 school. So we just reviewed ours recently because you have to review them every year. This is not my draft language. This is definitely language that came from the administration, but I did take a look at it. And as far as I can tell, it's in line with what most of these policies look like. The next step would be to submit it to DESE to make sure that they approve it as well.
Um, so I looked at this and a couple of other policies with the administration, with the staff and the consultant. And the lottery and like admissions selection criteria are kind of where different policies differ. We right now don't have a selection criteria. So it's very open. Our lottery right now is also just very open. But the team said that this policy has to be submitted every year. So as we learn, what isn't working, it would come back to you all. So right now it's straight lottery. Anyone who applies, I think like if there's 20 seats and 25 students apply, it would just be a random lottery, no weighted criteria right now. But once we learn, right, say it's 25 students apply, 24 males, 1 female, we get to talk about like, do we need to think differently about this policy? Are there different criterias that we can set that are within the parameters of the law, right? But right now it's just whoever applies, everybody gets a number. Congratulations.
You're in.
You're in.
Of the amount of slots we have.
Yeah.
Do we have questions from members of the subcommittee? Concerns about this policy? So we did the first reading last night, at the regular school committee meeting. So this would be at our next school committee meeting, we would report out that we reviewed it at the policy subcommittee. And if there's no concerns, we can just move forward with the second reading. Right. Okay, no questions or concerns? All right, so we'll take a motion at the end.
Okay.
So move on to the
You
next.
wanna move for this separately though, where it's not gonna be part of section A?
Oh,
or whatever
okay.
one we're doing, I don't know what we're doing, A, yeah.
Yep.
You, but it won't be part of that.
Okay, I think that's a very good
Yeah.
one. So I would entertain a motion to move forward for the second vote on chapter 74 vocational technical education programs policy by Ms. Del Rossi, seconded by Mr. Conway. Roll call on that?
Sure. Chairperson Doherty,
Yes.
Mr. Conway, Mr. Rossi.
Yes.
Three yes.
Okay, great. But that makes sense, Mary, we keep it by section.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess we can pick up with where we left off at the last meeting.
Now we're with preschool.
Oh, we have to do preschool? Oh, this.
This is the next policy on your agenda.
Okay, that's the
This will also
preschool
be
assignment
something,
policy.
yeah.
Ms. Phillips, yep, I have it right here.
One of the things that, Ms. Mallon shared with me is that preschool is not a requirement in Massachusetts. So they don't have like a recommended, policy. Is that correct, Ms. Mallon?
Correct.
So this is the policy that's currently on our books. The red language, is what's been updated by our early childhood office in collaboration with our registration team. And the biggest changes, there's not page numbers, so I apologize. We need to get into the habit of page numbers every time. But on page 3, the response rate for assignments used to be 15 business days. But after they've evaluated how long it takes families to respond, they feel like the 7 business days is better, because it's able to get students in more quickly. So that's one of the big changes for response time.
So now families only have 1 week, 7 days to respond, or they lose their spot.
1.5, because it's business days.
Oh,
not
okay,
calendar days.
business days, got it.
Yeah.
Or they lose their spot,
Right.
okay.
How do they respond?
Via email and phone call.
And
So,
how are they notified?
email and phone call. I think before it was snail mail, which is why they were doing the 15 days, because you have to wait for the delivery to the address. But,
When they call, who they,
they call the number on record, the number 0.
but I know people complain that people call the different things, not the same thing. Sometimes I just wonder.
Or Google, like a Google Sheets that they can input their information, and so it's more streamlined overall. As what's happening now isn't working. People are getting upset.
So the pre-K registration is different from the K-12 registration.
But it all goes to the same place, right? Essentially, like the phone number.
I think one would go to FRC, the other goes to.
Yeah,
The
early childhood does all of the
They do it
placements.
separately.
FRC only reviews, the documents to make sure that the student lives in Lowell, has the immunization record, has the birth certificate. So FRC looks at those aspects of registration, and the early childhood department does all of the placement, communication, calling. They're recommending a shorter time frame from their experience the last couple of years, where families are responding very quickly. And so
They check that documentation,
the FRC,
the residents,
mhm,
how do they check that? The
Um,
reason why is that we've seen it millions of times where they utilize, they use someone else's alias. Just wondering how do you work it out? How do you know? Especially when we're talking that age, because that's,
Well, I mean, the proof of residency is required. So you're saying, how do they do that?
yeah.
It's probably a bill.
mhm.
No, I mean, I know, but what's the mechanics of it?
Right, like if you were to send out information that you needed to have signed back, it goes to this address and nothing happens. Right, so I know in my district, we have a residency verification concern form that we have staff or anybody who's concerned about that student's residency to be able to say, are they really living in Lowell? Right? Like, how do we find this out, right?
How do
And
we know that that's factual?
Well, at the point of registration, we check the acceptable residency document. So it's a bill, it's a lease, it's a mortgage.
and it has that person's.
Yes, it has that person's name on it matching, you know, their
The
ID.
photo
Yeah, the
ID
photo
of the
ID.
guardian of
Yeah.
it.
And, and then at that point, you know, when they're enrolled in a school, if the school is finding that, you know, mail is being returned, if they're finding that, you know, if the school has concerns, then we can always do a residency check at that point.
But for purposes of this policy, we are reducing the turnaround, the time that you have to respond to the
Right.
offer. But since everything is online, the registration is online, it would seem to me they would have accurate email addresses. I do like the
Right.
idea of two methods of communication, a phone call, if you leave a message,
Mhm,
and the email saying you've got a spot,
mhm.
and we're only gonna hold it
Right.
for such and such a time period, because this,
Right, and this is communicated to parents at the point of registration so that they are waiting, right?
right, they're looking for, they know the lottery's happening,
Mhm.
they're looking to see if they got a placement. Okay.
The other change is in the attendance on page 3. Children with unexcused absences of more than 10% of the total days will be provided written notice, right?
Of
So
concern,
of concern because, the goal is to have as many students attending pre-K as regularly as possible. And so, you know, that they wanted to tighten up the attendance expectations since it's not compulsory.
right, so that way, if you're not attending, you're gonna lose your seat. And they
If
can
someone
offer,
else, if someone
they
else
can
is
offer
waiting.
it to a child who's going to actually come.
Yeah.
Ms. Mellon, did you get to review this document? Did you have any suggestions?
I do not have any suggestions on this one. Like Latifa had said, the preschool is not a requirement in the state of Massachusetts. So the application and attendance, et cetera, is for the district to determine. But having reviewed it, I don't see any concerns with it.
Any other concerns or questions about this? Okay. All right, so the next item on
You gonna
the,
approve it?
this,
It's separate. than
oh,
that.
this is also separate, okay.
Yes.
Let's approve this one then, motion to approve the, changes to the preschool assignment policy. By Ms. Del Rossi, seconded by Mr. Conway, roll call,
Chairperson Doherty.
yes.
Mr. Conway. Mr. Ross.
Yes.
Really?
So the next one is the domestic violence leave policy.
Mhm.
So this is also out of order,
This is one that went to first reading,
okay,
but the student for more information, I think legal. I think the unanswered question is, whether the district will provide aid for these. Or,
I think that's more of a discretion issue. So,
But did we want legal to look at it? Did we get a response from them?
I know, I mean, they're still looking at it.
Because if you apply for like parental leave on the mass website, like teachers would never get approved for it. Never, ever, ever. So it would have to be incumbent on this. Because teachers pay into the mass teachers retirement, not the state retirement.
So I don't see how, if we wanted an opinion from the city's law department, why is it coming before us if we haven't had a response from them? And this was before, this was in December, I think, that we looked at this, right? I just don't know, are we gonna move forward if we haven't heard from them yet, or?
I think that's the question, or we should wait.
So,
Just a, like, say,
right, so can we just request Dr. Hall that tell him the policy subcommittee met? I think this is the second time we talked about it, so I don't know
right,
when did we originally ask for their opinion?
that's the last time we met. Oh,
November? Yeah, so we met in November, then we met in December, we hadn't heard back yet. So it's been a couple of months.
I don't know if that many concrete legal issues remain in regards to this policy, whether or not you guys are comfortable paying up to 15 days. Or whether you're based on the criteria that's necessary to trigger it. I would be telling you that state law allows this to be authorized and not like superintendent.
But unless we decide we no longer need their legal opinion, we've been asking for their legal.
I agree, you should set another follow-up right now.
Right, okay, so
I'm
we
just
need a
gonna,
motion to do that?
I'm just gonna confirm that it's the school committee's discretion on whether or not.
Right. And if they have any advice on how we should move forward, do we need a motion to do that again? Okay. Okay. Section A. Foundations and basic commitments.
Okay. So let me make a So, because we live in fun times, there has been a legal ruling in the last week, which we have guidance from our legal counsel about, regarding the Title IX policies. So we're going to do a little bit of live editing as we go through with this. Some of the Title IX policies that we recommended be changed based on guidance that was supposed to be in effect for August 1st. Has now been reverted to the model policy we had recommended prior to August 1st instead of the one that came after. So there's a couple places in the document you have where we're actually going to unstrike the Lowell version and not make any changes. There's a couple of questions about whether or not there may be additional changes coming for Title IX, but what we're saying to you all is you have a version that we approved, that we put out, and that most of you have approved prior to this past summer. We're all just going to hang on to the version from prior to the summer because the legal ruling that came down on January 9th from one of the federal circuit judges reverts back out of the Biden guidance back to the original Trump administration guidance. So throwing that out there before we start because we may have to do a little bit of editing. Okay. So we're going to jump right in with, is this big enough on the, I know you guys have printouts usually, but is this big enough on the screen for everyone? Or do you want me to make it a little bit bigger?
Oh, I can see how you guys feel.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay.
I'm talking in front of you. Okay.
Fantastic. So we're starting with policy AA. This is the school district legal status. The only thing we have changed here is we have updated a cross-reference to a policy that will be in the next section, which is the school committee legal status. So that's the only change we would make here. Other than that, we would leave the Lowell version as is. Okay. And our version of it is after struck through, just so that you could see what our version is, but they match, so we don't need to worry about that. So the next one is AB. This is the people in their school district. Your policies match. There's only a minor grammatical update where we have changed children to students. Other than that, it's the same policy. Okay, and there's our version. This is the first one we come to where we had in your documents that you are provided, you'll see your draft note. I started making the changes in my document. You'll see your draft note says that our policy was updated and we recommend our updated policy version. This is one of the first ones we hit where we're going to revert back to the previous model policy. So as far as I can tell so far, and I will double check it again before I send you my notes, your original policy matches the policy version we have reverted to. So if I scroll down and I show you, this is actually the policy I was recommending to you. It's still, you can see it's still in, it's not in red because I haven't changed that yet. We're not going to update to the MASC new version. We're going to keep the original Lowell version. And I'm just going to go through and make sure we update the language grammatically, because there's a couple of different school system, etc., that I will go through and change. So the upshot on this one is we're keeping Lowell's AC. And then we are going to, I will go back in and update any grammatical changes. Okay. I will also make sure the cross references are updated. This is very, very new because we just got the guidance from the feds a little while ago. So, and when we're all done with this, I will fix up this version and I will change the colors back to what they need to be. And I will send you a new copy for the full committee. Okay. So this is another one where, we are going to revert to our prior recommendation on AC-R. So we are not changing the one that's in front of you right now. And actually, if you hold on just 1 second, I'm going to jump in here. And I will show you, this is actually the version, the one on my screen. This is the one we're going to recommend to you. This is our version of AC-R. Reverting to our previous recommendation. So does anyone have any questions on that?
So just so I'm clear, we're reverting back to an MASC version.
Yes. What we're doing, so for this one, for AC-R, we're not taking the Lowell version, but you're also not taking the one that you have in your packet right now.
Going to an earlier version from MASC.
Yep, we're going to one that was in the middle. So it's not your oldest and it's not the one we recommended over the summer. This is like building the plane while you fly it. Just because this recommendation came out from the feds less than a week ago. So when I send it to you, when I send the new document to you, it will include that middle version, which has been the one that's been in place for, oh goodness, hold on, I'll tell you. 2022. We're reverting to the 2022 versions of all these recommendations. So, knowing that, does the committee have any questions about reverting to the 2022 version?
Any questions? No.
I will tell you that the Lowell version is 1978.
So we're still waiting.
Yeah, that was a really good year. That's the year I was born.
If we had met last week as we originally scheduled, we'd be making changes of just what we had already agreed on. So I think it works out. The timing works out.
Yes. Yes. This is very, very strange, but yep. feel like we rewrite these policies like once every 2 months. Okay. Moving right along. This is another one. This is AC-E. This is an example policy, an exhibit policy that was part of your original AC. We don't need to replace this with anything else. The new -R is going to take care of it. So we're going to get rid of your Lowell -E because it was out of date anyway.
So we're eliminating AC-E.
Yes. And the pertinent information is actually covered in the previous -R that you'll have. So and I'm going to pull up another thing on my screen for you. So the next one is ACA. And let me unstrike this so that I can get a quick look at it. This is another one that got upended by that revision on the 9th. Sorry about this. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to take, again, the 2022 version, which is this one on your screen. And noted there that we're in January 2025, we're reverting back to the 2022 policy. Yours is very similar to ours. There's just this new one will include sex, sexual orientation, or gender identity, which is part of the original 2022 language. So that's right here. That's the only difference between your original policy and this one, which was the intermediary 2022 policy. Does anyone have any questions? Sure.
How does this relate to sports?
So this is the overall Title IX policy. I know that there's a lot of sports related policies that do reference Title IX. This one is about non-discrimination. So the policy itself is the high level, and then there would be regulations that flow out from that.
So it's like the pinnacle ACA of Title IX, and then everything else flows from this.
Yes. Yeah. This is like the introductory sentence.
So I do have concerns, essentially, that genetically males are playing female sports.
So that's not covered by this policy. I know that there's been another recent ruling that has come out regarding transgender athletes. That is not something we have guidance on yet. And the ruling that came out from the federal government reverted everyone to this version. So even though we're hearing other things, that there might be additional updates coming, this is the current update that legally you're required to have. So this does not talk about transgender athletes in sports, etc. That would be a completely different issue entirely.
This is also saying we cannot discriminate.
Correct.
Right. I mean, I essentially do have questions.
So I would say those would be questions that would be well above all of our heads. That would be something you would want to take up with your district legal counsel. This is the policy that we recommend to have in place, and any procedures that come from it would be something you would want to talk to your district legal counsel about. Because this is still, whether there is an update somewhere else later on, this is the current law. This is the current wording of the current law.
That we should contact our legal.
We would have to essentially take this out.
I don't think that's what she's saying, but maybe you can clarify. I think she's saying the procedures that come out of it would be the part.
Not the content.
Not that the law is the law, right? It's a
Correct.
law.
Correct. So
Yeah.
essentially, this is the law. This is the federal law and the state law. They're both in there. The CFR and the MGL, they're both in there. If there were questions about transgender athletes in sports, that is more procedural, and that's actually something that the MIAA would also want to weigh in on. So DESE and the MIAA would have guidance for that. That is not what we do. We do the policy, which tells you what the law is. From there, you would want to look at either the DESE guidance or the MIAA guidance, and also talk to your district legal counsel as to how it would be implemented. So let me clarify it a little bit more. This says you can't discriminate. How you make sure you don't discriminate is procedural.
Questions you guys coming with that? Okay. I think we're good with that.
Okay. So ACA will be the 22 version. Okay. Moving along. This is AC. Oh, I'm sorry, what?
I'm curious if our version of this was 1978 as well, because that was when Title IX first came in 70s.
Right. So this at one of them actually said 1976, which was kind of a riot to me. So this ACA-R, this was one of the things that came out of the outgoing administration's recommendation. So this, we're actually not going to recommend this to you at all right now, because we're reverting again to 2022. So you can strike this one from the printed document that you have. We're not going to recommend this one at this time. So pretend it never happened until we get another guidelines from the federal government.
ACA-R would not making that recommendation.
Correct. Let me tell you, it's a really interesting time to be someone who works in policy. Okay. So the next one is ACAB, sexual harassment. We are again looking at, let me take a look really quick. Yours is worded just slightly differently. But again, it looks like you need the 2022 version. So if you look up at your screens, this is the 2022 version. It does include some definitions of things, and it talks about the Office of Civil Rights paragraph of definitions. So this does not come from MASC. This is the legally required language for ACAB sexual harassment. So this is the version. You don't have this in your documents. This is the one that we're now reverting to.
So the one I'm looking at is I have a hard copy of this.
Yep.
Yep, I have that one in red.
Yep.
One that's all in black ink.
Yep.
We're not reverting to that one.
No, that's the one in black is the 2024 version. We're going back to the 2022 version.
Okay.
I know. I'm so sorry about that. It's honestly, the decision came out very fast, and because you guys were just in the middle of this section, it's kind of how it happened. There is not a lot of difference between the two of them. Most of it is about the definitions remain mostly the same. It's just how it's structured in the policy. And then if you take a look at your screen, the definitions are still there. That's those bulleted points right there. And then there's notice and due process. We're reverting to the 2022 requirements of due process. So I can tell you your district is probably already doing all of the things in the 2022 version, because we all got those notifications when that first came out. It's just that you didn't update your policy in your manual.
So we're, just to be clear, we're reverting to, instead of the 2024 advice, we're reverting to MASC's 2022.
Correct. Correct.
Can I ask just a clarifying question in terms of the file ACAB that we have?
Yes.
Or is that not correct and we need a red line version?
So because you guys have the printed version from before the new guidance came out from the ruling on the 9th. So the ruling happened on the 9th and the guidance came out shortly after. What you have in your hand was printed before that. So I will send you all a new electronic version of what you can see on your screen right now.
So this version that's in here is the 2024 version.
And
Yeah.
then-
We're going back to the 2022 because of this new one. All right, and you're gonna list the new one,
Yes, I'm going to send you a brand new document tonight.
and that's what we're gonna be putting forward at our next school committee.
Correct. Correct. And it will still be draft, so I wouldn't worry too much about you not having the physical copy in your hand. You're seeing on your screen what it is. And what the subcommittee is actually recommending to the full committee is the guidance that is put forward by DESE and the state and the AG's office. I can tell you that when you're looking at all of these policies from us that have heavy legal ramifications, when they get drafted by our legal counsel, they are drafted in conjunction with the guidance from the Attorney General's office from Massachusetts. So this isn't something that it's not an aspirational policy. We're not recommending these things to you because someone in our office thinks it's the right thing to do. This is literally the guidance from the Attorney General's office. So when I send you the document later on tonight, it will have all the 2022 versions that have been vetted by the Attorney General's office.
I just want to state from my colleagues on the subcommittee that this 2024 drafts that we're now going back from have not been presented to the committee. If
No.
we're reading, everything we're doing is going to be forward from what we had. We have policies that we're looking at from 1976, 1978. All we're doing in the subcommittee level is reverting to an earlier version from 2024 of MASC policy. When the committee doesn't to be explained to the full committee. We're saying, this is what MASC is advising us. Yeah, but do you understand that we're still moving forward with our own policies?
Whether or not we're going from 24 to 22 doesn't need to be
For them,
provided.
Because
Right.
All right.
What you'll be bringing forward is what MASC recommends most currently as of today. And we just had a staff meeting to talk about this today. Hot off the presses. Okay. So moving along to the next policy. ACE. This is another one where we're going to revert to the 2022 version. So if you give me 1 second, I will put that one on your screen as well.
So the black line version does not apply.
Right.
Correct.
And you'll send that to us.
Right.
Yes. So if you take a look up at the screen, this is the version you're going to get after tonight's meeting. This is the 2022 guidance.
Back to the 22.
Yes.
22 such a
Well,
good
then why
year.
would we be even doing this now? Everything's gonna be reserved back to the 22.
Well, because our policies haven't been changed since the 70s.
Yeah.
Policies.
I remember those policies.
What would you, I mean, I don't know if you can
There's a
speak
lot
in
of
general. What were the changes in 24 that we're now taking away?
Retracting, yeah.
Right. So if we're looking at your original version, most of what we're seeing is grammatical updates. We're not saying system, we're saying district. We're not saying children, we're saying students. If I take a look at your original version,
But my question is really more about the difference between 2022 and 2024 policies. Those 2 years.
So it's a matter of the change in the administration. So actually, let me take a look at this really quickly.
What changed?
Oh, actually, I'm sorry, I misspoke. This is not a 2022-2024 issue. For policy ACE, this is a Lowell original to the 2022 version. So what you have in your packet is actually the original, the correct 2022 MASC version.
Version you want us to use. Non-discrimination. Disability is the title.
MASC version,
And
Yes.
So we're not reverting.
which is,
It doesn't matter for you anyway, Mary, because none of these versions came before the full committee.
Right.
I don't think you have to say we're reverting. You say we're accepting their advice. She's explained to us in those other ones where the hard copy didn't match what they
so
were.
you don't want me to use that language?
You don't need to.
Okay,
Because we're gonna accept what MASC is advising
Okay.
us. I think it'll be similar.
that looks so good for me.
All right, so I'm sorry, where are we, Ms. Miller?
That's totally fine. This is honestly, I have to say, I'm sorry that this is happening this way. If we hadn't had that guidance come out right on the 9th, the decision on the 9th, and then the guidance that came after it, and then our meeting tonight, we wouldn't be doing it this way. It's just that we had that guidance happen. So hopefully, things we'll have more lead time on things. So ACE, what you have in your packet is what we're recommending.
Everything else from now on?
I'm sorry, say that again.
So everything else that we have in our packet is what you're recommending going forward now?
Not quite yet. I think there might be one more.
Go ahead.
So this next one, ACGA, let me just check very quickly. We are not at this time going to recommend ACGA. So you can just go ahead and draw a line through it in your packets that you have. This is one of the 2024 policies that you did not have that we would have recommended, but we now no longer need to recommend this.
So it's not an earlier version, it's just get rid of the policy.
Correct. Where you don't have it at all, and we were going to tell you to adopt it, but now we're telling you not to.
Now they're not even saying add it.
Which makes complete sense,
Okay,
because
again, I don't know that needs to be spelled out, but.
Right. I would say when I send you the new document, I'm going to pull all the ones that we don't recommend anymore, and I will make sure that the reversions are all in there. You can say to the full committee, we have had guidance from MASC that based on a legal opinion that came forward this month, this is currently what we recommend.
But do you think we should say, and these 5 they're no longer recommending? I don't know why that would be.
No, because I'll pull them out.
We're just gonna focus on the ones you are recommending.
I think a lot of AGCA is essentially covered under civil rights.
Right. The middle ground, the 2024 policies recommended additional grievance procedures. 2022 does not. So this next one, ACGB, is one we're also pulling and no longer recommending.
So this is another one that MASC had, we did not have.
Correct.
We're no longer recommending that we adopt it.
Correct. And it's huge, so flip a whole bunch of pages. Okay, so now we're on to, for the most part, I think we are now into We're away from the Title IX policies. Now we're into what is in your packet should be what we're recommending going forward. So this is policy AD, educational philosophy. You'll note in ours, we call it mission statement. It's up to you. This is one of the aspirational policies. They are very similar, but this is one of those places where you're going to want to make sure that Lowell's educational philosophy or Lowell's mission statement, this is the place for you to put that. If you haven't updated it in many years, or if you're going through like a strategic planning process right now, this might be one you want to hold. It's entirely appropriate to keep your current version of this though, and it's something the committee should discuss.
So you don't have a recommendation for it, you're just saying, read it over and decide if you're still good with it.
Correct. We have a version of it, and I did include our version. So if you look at your AD educational philosophy, ours is called AD mission statement. Whichever way, this is literally what Lowell Public Schools believes they should be doing on behalf of students. So if you keep yours, we're going to add a cross-reference and we'll update the grammar, but the substance of the policy itself is really up to the committee.
So just refer to the full committee.
Put a spice into that educational philosophy.
And then, Alicia, just so you know, we have another subcommittee starting at 7 o'clock. So we.
Okay. Okay. So you want both of these versions to go to the full committee so you guys can discuss what you prefer? Okay. Sounds good. This is ADA, School District Goals and Objectives. This is a Lowell only policy, and it's appropriate to keep it. This is another one that I would refer to the full committee to see whether or not it still aligns with your mission, vision, and goals. So if you have another meeting coming up though, let me just take a quick look. We are on ADC.
That might be the place to stop.
Yes, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more policies.
So the ones that we are all in agreement that we're gonna follow MASC advice. And that would be,
Or we can wait till we finish. I think we keep them all going.
oh, this is all part of, okay.
Yeah.
Yep,
All right.
so don't do anything yet. We'll just finish it at the next one. And actually at the next one, then you'll be able to see those 2022 policies where they should be.
All right, good. All right, so we'll leave off on ADC, but we will bring these two education philosophy and the district goals and objectives to the full committee at our next meeting.
Okay,
We'll get a decision on that.
okay. Do you want to set our next meeting before you guys have to move to your next one?
Well, we've got the subcommittee here.
And are we adding any other policies?
Yeah, do you want to pick the next section? Because we should easily be able to finish AD.
Sure. So I assumed we were going to move on to section B, which is board governance.
Okay. All right, so. Everybody's got their calendar open?
Mhm.
So we're looking at February. Can't exactly, is that supposed to show me when you're available?
Oh, yeah, you guys, I just realized you can see my calendar. Hold on, let me stop sharing.
Okay.
You don't need to know when all the rehearsals for James and the Giant Peach are. Unless you want to come, it'll be lovely.
Yeah.
Okay, so when would you like to have your next meeting?
So if you want to do it another week.
Right, so we're just discussing that if we do it the 4th, we have a school committee meeting on the 5th, so maybe it would be better to do the 11th.
Oh,
No,
I'm sorry, that, I thought that was during February school vacation, but it's not.
No, February vacation is the 18th, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
So we're looking at either the 11th or the 4th, or if you want to push it out to the 25th, but we lost the month of December kind of.
So I'm not available on the 11th. I have my Neshoba Tech meeting that night. But I can definitely do the 4th.
4th is good for you?
Yep.
What about the 25th?
Yep, I have the 25th open as well.
All right, so we're gonna go for the 25th.
Okay.
Time, we've been trying to do these two subcommittees a night if we can, just so
Okay.
we're. But I don't know, so if we're gonna do two, that means we would start at 6.
Sounds good.
The other one at 7, otherwise we'll start at 6:30, and we'll confirm that for you as we get a little closer to February 25th.
Okay, sounds terrific. And I will have updated documents for you in the next section as well.
All right, thank you
All
so
right,
much.
terrific. Thank you all for accommodating my being remote.
I'm glad it worked out. It looked like for a minute there, we weren't gonna be able to do it.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Okay, well, I will be in touch. I will talk to you all soon.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
And I would accept the motion to adjourn by Mr. Conway, seconded by Mr. Rossi. All those in favor, aye. So you know what happened?